Imagine a world where warriors laughed at death, where fate itself was embraced, and where glory mattered more than life. This was the Viking spirit. But what would one of history's most provocative philosophers, Friedrich Nietzsche, say about them? Nietzsche never wrote directly about the Vikings as a distinct cultural group, but his philosophy overlaps strongly with themes people often associate with them. In today's video, we'll explore the Vikings through Nietzsche's eyes, their will to power, their tragic embrace of fate, and their downfall under Christianity's morality. At the core of Nietzsche's philosophy is what he called the will to power, the deep instinct driving all living things to grow, expand, and assert themselves. For Nietzsche, life isn't about comfort, safety, or equality. It's about struggle, overcoming, and testing one's limits. Now think about the Vikings. They didn't stay home in the safety of their fjords. They sailed into storms, raided across Europe, and even reached North America. This wasn't just survival. It was expression, a will to power written into the very fabric of their culture. Every raid, every voyage, every duel was a chance to prove strength against the world. In Nietzsche's eyes, that would have been life lived to its fullest. Nietzsche believed that human morality comes in two forms: master morality and slave morality. Master morality celebrates strength, pride, courage, and vitality. It's about affirming life and valuing power. Slave morality, on the other hand, comes from the weak. It values humility, meekness, pity, and obedience. The Vikings, before Christianity, lived firmly by master morality. Their sagas are filled with heroes who sought honor in battle, who measured themselves by courage, not by compassion. To die with a sword in hand was glorious. But with the arrival of Christianity, Scandinavia slowly abandoned this ethos. Instead of Valhalla, the afterlife became about heaven and hell. Instead of glory, the highest virtue became obedience. Nietzsche saw this Christianization of Europe as a disaster, the triumph of weakness over strength. In his eyes, the taming of the Vikings was the taming of Europe itself. The Vikings believed in glory after death. A warrior who fell bravely in battle could reach Valhalla, where feasting and fighting would last forever. But their mythology was brutally honest about the bigger picture. Even the gods themselves were doomed at Ragnarök. Everything would collapse in the end. And yet they didn't despair. Instead, they faced this fate with courage. A Viking warrior went to battle knowing death was certain, but what mattered was how he faced it. Nietzsche admired exactly this attitude. He called it Amor Fati, the love of fate. To not just accept life's tragedies, but to embrace them, to say yes even to suffering and destruction. The Viking who smiles at doom, who welcomes death as long as it's glorious, is a living example of Nietzsche's highest ideal. Nietzsche's famous concept, the Übermensch or Overman, was not simply a strong man but a creator of values. Someone who rises above the herd, who dares to live beyond the categories of good and evil. In Viking sagas, we see figures who come close to this. Odin, who sacrifices himself for wisdom, endlessly seeking knowledge and power. Ragnar Lothbrok, who defies kings, gods, and fate itself to live on his own terms. Even mythical heroes like Sigurd, who slays the dragon, embody the spirit of forging one's own destiny. These characters aren't meek followers. They're larger-than-life figures who refuse to be bound by ordinary rules. In them, Nietzsche might have seen echoes of his Übermensch, men who create meaning rather than submitting to it. But Nietzsche wouldn't have stopped with admiration. He would have seen tragedy in the Viking story. The wild spirit of Scandinavia was gradually subdued. Churches replaced mead halls. Guilt replaced honor. The proud warrior became a penitent farmer. For Nietzsche, this was Europe's great sickness, the victory of slave morality, the triumph of meekness over strength. He might have said that the Christianization of the Vikings marked the end of Europe's heroic age. The fire of the will to power was smothered under centuries of guilt, sin, and obedience. So what would Nietzsche say about the Vikings? He might see in them the last great warriors of Europe's master morality, men who affirmed life, who loved fate, who sought glory even in death. But he would also see their Christianization as a tragedy, a story of power turned into submission. I am curious to hear your thoughts on the topic in the comments. If you made it this far, please consider giving the video a thumbs up and subscribe for more.